Hey, it's Pops. X-Men 97 is a wrap. Let's talk about it. What works, what doesn't work. Episodes 8, 9, 10. That's right. Tolerance is extinction. Does Bastion win out? What happens with the other characters? What moves forward in season 2? Do they have a surprise return of a character we thought was lost? What are all the different things and how do I feel about them? Let's talk about it right now. All right, X-Men 97. Yes, episode 8 kicked off and gave us a little tease where we were seeing Bastion and really how evil he was and the zero tolerance, Operation Zero Tolerance, and all that kind of come to light. We'd seen things happening, and yeah, it kicks right into high gear of having some really good stuff. And I will say that I did enjoy the fact that they don't really have any holdback of effort here. Animation looks great. They bring in different characters, looking great. Cable looks awesome, and we get to see the team actually in action a little bit before we cut away to the Jubilee Sunspot story, which is kind of exhausting at this point. Like I'm really let down by this story arc because it was very, very heavy-handed and it kind of went nowhere. It basically just exasperates the mom is a bigot against mutant kind of thing. It's tired. We cut back and we see sort of like this journey, and Jean is finding Rogue. It's just everything is kind of a mess for them. Sinister is trying to betray Bastion. We find out Magneto's not only alive, but we have this sort of like brief interaction. Will he get free or not? Basically, is what's being set up here. Episode 8 really is kind of like the setup to all this as they kind of investigate and they follow Bastion back to the mom. And in the process, Jean's doing some like mental mind probing things that she shouldn't necessarily be doing. We cut back to Magneto. Love the Doctor Doom reference, by the way. That was actually great. Doctor Doom, little Baron Zemo, I believe, in here as well. I liked all that. And we kind of have the fact that he is like this advanced version of Nimrod and mutants and villains and things like that. It's like it's progressed well for him. I liked all that. And then it's experimenting, right? Turning humans into this new version of sort of like a Ultron mutant, right? They're all kind of connected. Can they be saved? Can this process be reversed? That's all kind of like the setup here. And they basically just figure out the mom has already been transformed. She's already this new creature. So I will say this, it is definitely all in on being an adult animated show. Now, I've already said my piece on that. I think what works for the show is it's treating everything with respect and dignity. We didn't get some weird twist of fate of agenda stuff at this point. There was a couple things I think are a little heavy-handed, but for the most part, we're getting some good action, good sequences, and mystery as all of this sort of plays out. All of the characters are coming to life now under Bastion's control, and I have this massive fight sequences and different things like that. Look at this. We finally get to see really some really good action sequences. Wolverine taking out all these. This was exactly what every fan's really wanting was this kind of stuff, right? Then you have this great sequence with Wolverine and Nightcrawler who takes up a third sword with his tail. No, so talk about epic references to Excalibur comic books. Now, if you're not familiar with Excalibur, it's sort of like the forgotten of the X-Men books. That's right. Excalibur showcased Nightcrawler and some different characters that kind of the underrated of that group in that era. Because obviously, let's talk about X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, X-Force, Wolverine, maybe even X-Factor and New Mutants, but very few people are in there talking about Excalibur. So I love this. This sequence was possibly one of my favorites of the entire series to date because it works really quickly in just showing off all of their skills. So you can see Wolverine cut and slice and dicing. You can see really, and this is one of those things too, where I don't think people always understood why Nightcrawler was so powerful, why he was so good. Because even in the comic, I don't think it. I think it kind of can be understated, right? But here you can really see how imaginative you can be with different things. How he can bounce around, how he can just be here, be there, take up the third thing. Oh, it's just so good. Anyway, they come back to life, and we end up moving on to he basically becomes full on Sunspot, trying to rescue Jubilee against their attack. As Cyclops and the group move forward, Bastion and the plot kind of thickens, and everybody's turning on everybody. It's turning like chaos, and can they win or not is how it ends. So as we move into the next episode, what doesn't get dealt with finally does. Xavier and Magneto, and it's sort of a massive, underwhelming sort of thing that kind of plays out here, where they're having this sort of battle inside Magneto's mind as he's basically just going to take vengeance on the entire Earth. You're going to see chaos break out on the entire Earth. It's completely insane what his plan is. And Charles is trying to figure out how I got to be able to attack him mentally. We've got to figure out how to undo this because what Magneto is doing will actually destroy all of Earth. So Magneto is really manifesting what his dream was as the X Men try to figure out what they're doing because Magneto's move has gotten rid of all sorts of tech. It's created just a complete, utter chaos worldwide. And the X Men have to figure out what to do. But again, look at the gallery that we got. So I love the fact that we end up keeping Nightcrawler, Forge is in the mix, Cable's in the mix. And we really haven't seen much of Morph and really Rogue in the last episode or so. So we've got everybody here involved. They're working on their tech to undo the Bastion thing. Obviously, there's a quick little reference here to Storm losing her powers and the tech that necklace bracelet thing. And then, of course, that was also engineered by Forge. Which, by the way, look at the Forge pouches. Talk about a '90s reference. Talk about some serious, like Rob Liefeld stuff going on here, man. All right, he's rocking the pouches. So, of course, the first appeal from Xavier is not going to work. It's going to fall on deaf ears. As everybody looks on, they figure out what's going to actually happen with Magneto. He's doubling down on it. He's pulling aside X Men. Go, listen, why don't you come join me? And much to Professor Xavier's chagrin, Rogue is the first to kind of step aside and go, listen, I can't do this. Sunspot as well. Like, I don't have a place. I don't fit in. And they kind of go off with Magneto with this big scheme that he has going on before the rest try to figure out what to do. And you have some interesting stuff here for Cyclops and Cable to kind of work through. And I think this was actually some stuff that the comics do really well, but it happens over a long period of time. But the show actually did well in a short amount of time. I'm actually very surprised by this. So a lot of times my criticisms will be the show is condensing too much too fast, or they're picking and choosing things from things that aren't really related. They're maybe from years apart in the comic book lore. But here they move very quickly through some stuff and some dynamics that I think actually works really well. All right, so they got to figure out how to get out there, and we end up going with old school costumes. That's right. The battle torn stuff doesn't work. We got to go with what we got. And yeah, look at the old Marvel Girl outfit, some retro Storm, and that Wolverine, that brown and yellow, man. Oh, that's so great. So I love seeing that. And this shot was just amazing. I love seeing it. It's what everybody wants. We wanted to see our X Men. And yeah, Cyclops rolls out with his classic look as well. And then they're back at this big battle. And everybody kind of splits up into their own thing. I don't necessarily like all of the team partnerships and things like that, but it works out okay. And there's just a whole series of interesting little battles and things that work out pretty well. I love a lot of the images. They go for some really great animation throughout the episode. I have to admit, I like that. And it really just kind of sets up the fact that they can get Xavier some control and whether or not they can get Magneto to stop this plan. Wolverine, of course, he's all in on the kill. And that's what's going to happen here. Is this big, massive fight's going to kind of come to a head, and Wolverine's going to try to spear him through. And what ends up happening is Magneto's using his powers on Wolverine and reversing that, and we're totally in on full on Fatal Attraction storyline. So one of the most famous X-Men storylines is called Fatal Attractions. It crossed over into all of the comic books. They're denoted by these holograms on the cover. So the holograms are actually physically on the covers. And the famous story is how Wolverine has his adamantium basically ripped out of him by Magneto. And it's completely insane right here. What actually happens? You can see the different conversation with Xavier going, please stop, please stop. That's not happening. And it's just tremendous. This actually plays out very, very well. And there's the shot. So the money shot is literally right out of the comic book with all that added, all that metal, all that animation, it's literally just ripping out of him. So this is exactly right out of that comic book. So if you had X-Men number 25, man, this has to just make you happy. This has to be what you wanted to see. All right, so with our finale, we end up with just the whole Xavier versus Magneto thing. And it's kind of like this big backdrop because the helmet comes off Magneto, which means Xavier can attack him now. And you up into this crazy flashback / therapy session between the two. Magneto not really knowing exactly who he is. And there's this big battle that's going to basically transpire. Meanwhile, in the physical world, everyone is reacting to all the chaos. It's breaking out like crazy everywhere because of Bastion's plan, and all the different robots are attacking everyone. Tons of references, tons of cameos. You see, obviously, Cloak and Dagger. You saw Psylocke briefly. Here's an attack where it involves Wakanda, Black Panther. He's just super, super powerful. And again, think about Mutant Ultron like on steroids. It's kind of where we get. It's just cool, crazy stuff. Cable's being controlled by Mr. Sinister, I think, was a really good little way to kind of subdue Cable for a while, create that family drama moment that we have for Cyclops and Jean, and all of them kind of come together and resolve all that, so we know how to move everybody forward. I liked all that as well. The episode's just full of just great images, great animation. The fall of Sinister, I think, was great. Cable coming together and trying to take on Bastion, and you're trying to figure out a way to deal with him, while the backdrop of Magneto and his suffering and who can he actually overcome or not is contrasted with Wolverine and his recovery. You can see him in the background. And I love the fact that they keep it PG. The blood and the gore and stuff in the comic book is definitely more graphic. It's not like horror or anything like that, but it's enough. It's intense. They give you enough of that, and I liked it. And of course, everyone's just in shock and awe of like what is going on here with him, and Kurt's just praying like, just Wolverine make it. The battle kind of continues with what's going to happen with Bastion. Obviously, everyone's coming together. They're basically trying to debate like the most extreme situations for President Kelly, trying to give Xavier time, but everyone else is like turning, like, listen, I don't know about you. Let's just take care of it all. And will Magneto just stop? Will Magneto just turn the other way? And that's what the battle says. It's like these different, it's different battles that are happening, right? The Bastion battle, the stuff with Magneto and Xavier, and then Wolverine is healing, kind of the things. And the Wolverine the healing is kind of like in the backdrop. It's kind of in the background. The battle looks great. Animation looks great. I loved all of it. I love how the X Men all come together and step up, and you end up with just what is left of Bastion. It's just a horrid shape of himself. It's shockingly good and bad at the same time. I love it. I just love it. I love the fact that Cyclops and Jean are like not going to make it out basically, and they go and they have this quick little conversation with Cable, Nathan being there, quick little parenting thing. You get some redemption, you get some hope, you get some fatherly advice, you get some of that kind of stuff. I thought it was actually very good. There's a quick little sentimental thing about "I see your eyes" kind of thing. Everything's going down. You see it all falling. Magneto's like, I don't know, we can do this or not. And can everybody turn and everybody join powers to do it themselves before you end up with the Bishop stuff? So things finally come to a head. It's going to basically get to the point of do or die for everybody there involved, and become pretty cataclysmic for everything as it just spontaneously blips and kind of it appears to like it explode to everyone on Earth. Like everybody knows quite know exactly what happened. So I like that a lot because when you wake up, you realize you're all sorts of different situations where Bishop's with Forge. Where's Rogue? Nightcrawler. They're in ancient Egypt with Magneto, who finds basically the version of Apocalypse. They have Professor there as well. And Scott and Jean are in the future. It sets up a season 2 rather well. It really gives you a little bit to go on, and quite not sure that shot was right out of an X Factor comic book as well. So, I I can see why fans love this. It was great. It's really what comic book fans want. Like I said, I'm not going to harp on the divergence and who the customers are now, what they're trying to accomplish. I will say there's been a very good response in the comic book market for the key issues surrounding this show. So, comic book issues that involve first appearance of Bastion, uh, X-Men 25, Wolverine's adamantium being pulled out by Magneto, first appearance of Magneto, of course, things like that. Very key issues have responded well to the market. People are seeking those out. But does that mean that are we seeing a run on X-Men comics? Are we seeing an X-Men uh, resurgence or anything like that? I'm not sure. But it got a lot of folks talking about it. It got a lot of folks talking about the show, wanting to rewatch the 92 show, maybe talk about owning some toys, things like that. So I thought it was a good step in the right direction. And I would say if it was not the lone example in a catalog of just sort of kind of whiffs in the last few years, Marvel wouldn't be in this state. People would really be, cycling through and doing a lot of different things. But right now, the comics are not in a good place. There's not a lot of other things to kind of hang your hat on. This show, animated or not, is probably among the best stuff that's happened in the last few years, for sure. So, anyway, that's my take on it. Love to hear your thoughts. I am Pops.
The most popular comic book in the world today is coming to life. Don't miss the premiere of X-Men Saturday, October 24th on Fox.
Surrender, mutant.
Give him the forecast.
Omega level threat detected.
The cards always be in my favor. Hear me. Humanity's days are over.
Marvel Animation's X-Men 97, now streaming on Disney+. All new Hasbro product inspired by Marvel Animation's X-Men 97, now available at retailers nationwide.